The girl came in with blood on her knees and silence in her throat. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just handed Noah Beckett a crumpled drawing, a house, a man in a cowboy hat, and a little girl behind a window. And for the first time in years, the retired Marine sniper who'd buried his wife and lost his daughter picked up a rifle again. Because some lines, even in a border town built on shadows, should never be crossed. Hit subscribe before watching rest of the story. The heat had teeth. It bit down through the corrugated tin roof of Beckett's auto and diesel, turning the interior into a slow-cooking metal box. The oscillating fan on the workbench did little more than rearrange the sweat already clinging to Noah Beckett's spine. He wiped his face with a shop rag, already stained with oil and sunblock. Outside, the horizon shimmered, the kind of summer day that made asphalt bubble and snakes bake in their own skin. "That radiator's done for," he muttered, leaning over the open hood of an F-150 that looked like it had lost a fistfight with a saguaro cactus. "Still cheaper than buying new," said the old man in the customer chair, chewing tobacco like it was a time-tested ritual. Noah nodded, wiped his hands, and walked back toward the small office to jot down an estimate. The little bell over the door jingled. Not the one outside, but the one in his mind. A sudden shift in presence. Someone was watching him. He turned. The girl stood just inside the bay door. Couldn't have been more than 8 or 9. Skinny, sand-caked legs, big eyes, bare feet. A backpack hung off one shoulder, purple and frayed, like it had made a long journey through bad places. She didn't say anything, just stared. Noah stepped out from behind the counter slowly, palms open. "You okay, kid?" he asked, voice low. She didn't respond. Her eyes darted toward the street, then back to him. "You hurt?" Still nothing. Noah took a step forward. The girl flinched and bolted, out the garage door and across the lot, disappearing behind the rusted husk of a long-dead Winnebago. "Hey!" he shouted, jogging after her. But when he rounded the corner, she was gone. Just desert air and a heat shimmer, like she'd evaporated. Later, Noah sat on the loading ramp, cracking the seal on a bottle of water and staring at the spot where the girl had stood. A distant cicada buzzed. The radio played low inside the shop, Tejano music from a station across the border. "Something wrong?" asked Eddie, his part-time mechanic and full-time nosy bastard. Noah shook his head. "Thought I saw a kid out back, probably just passing through." Eddie nodded slowly. "A lot of 'em passed through lately. Yeah, border's not far. Smugglers drop them off when the heat gets too hot. Leave 'em in the brush." Noah sipped his water, felt the knot in his gut twist. "You think they're with someone?" "Sometimes," Eddie shrugged. "Sometimes they ain't." That night, Noah didn't sleep. The girl's eyes haunted him. Wide, hollow, familiar. He'd seen eyes like that before. In Kandahar, after a roadside bomb took out a school bus. The kid who'd survived didn't speak either. He just sat in the rubble, dust in his lashes, blood on his knuckles. He got up at 2:13 a.m., drank cold coffee straight from the pot, and loaded his .45, the one he kept in a lockbox next to the tools, just in case. The next day, Noah drove his truck down to the river, not the tourist spots, but the dry crossings where the brush grew thick and no Border Patrol trucks parked nearby. It was empty, mostly. A burned shoe here, a cut-open water jug there. Then he found it. A backpack, purple, torn at the strap, lying in the dust near a broken barbed wire fence. Inside, a packet of crackers, half-eaten, a baby picture, a silver medallion of the Virgin of Guadalupe. His stomach turned. He turned around, started walking, checked his 6. That's when he saw the trail. Not a path exactly, more like a series of broken grass and scuffed dirt, just visible if you knew how to look. Just like tracking back in Helmand. just like hunting bad men in sandals with death in their pockets. Something moved ahead. Noah crouched, fingers brushing the ground. Footprints, smaller than his hand. Then, tire tracks, fresh, leading away from the river and back toward a derelict ranch house half hidden in the mesquite. He followed them, heart in his throat. The house was quiet. No lights, no signs. Just a rusted gate and a long, cracked driveway. A dust-covered sedan parked out front. Noah stayed in the tree line, crouched behind a cluster of scrub oak. A dog barked somewhere deep inside, then a scream. A child's voice. Muffled, quick. Then silence again. Noah's hand went to the grip of his pistol, and he did what he hadn't done in almost 10 years. He moved like a soldier. The old ranch house had the kind of silence that felt earned, like it had seen too much and wanted no more of the world. Its siding curled with sun damage, and weeds clawed at the porch like nature was trying to reclaim it. Noah Beckett crouched behind a brittle bush of mesquite, his eyes locked on the sedan out front. Texas plates, fresh dust on the tires, like it had driven off a dirt trail just hours ago. One window rolled down, an empty juice box in the cup holder. No movement. He scanned the house again. No lights, but something was off. A faint glimmer on one of the back windows, like the reflection of a phone screen or a small LED. Then, movement? A shadow crossing behind a curtain. And somewhere inside, a child had screamed. Not for fun, not for attention, for help. Noah moved. Low and fast, keeping his body behind the scrub trees lining the property. He made it to the edge of the backyard fence, chicken wire half collapsed, a rusted wheelbarrow upturned beside it. He listened. A radio playing. Spanish. Upbeat. Too upbeat for the moment. Noah reached for the pistol under his jacket, the .45 Kimber he hadn't fired in 3 years. He checked the chamber. Loaded. No backup, no warrant, no plan, just instinct. And that scream. He slipped in through the side yard, past a broken gate held together by frayed twine. One of the back doors had been replaced with plywood, slightly ajar. Noah's boots were nearly silent on the cracked concrete as he moved up to the opening and peeked inside. A makeshift hallway, sheetrock gutted, smelled like bleach and sweat. Wires hung like nerves from the ceiling, towels nailed over doorways instead of doors. He heard a man's voice, then another. Spanish, fast, tense. Noah didn't speak much of the language anymore, but he knew tones. Someone was angry, someone was afraid. And then, a child's sob. The kind of soft, surrendering cry that meant the fight had already been drained out of them. He moved deeper inside. He passed a door. Heard coughing behind it. Another room, empty. Just a stained mattress and plastic bags stacked like forgotten luggage. Flies buzzed near a boarded-up window. Then, voices in the far room. Noah flattened against the wall, stepping over loose floorboards. His hands didn't shake. They should have. But something in him had gone still. That cold, switch-flipped calm they trained into you when you stopped being a civilian. One more doorway. He peeked around. 3 men, one standing over a girl, maybe 8 or 9, in a stained t-shirt, tied at the wrists with a phone cord. Her lip was split, her face frozen. The other 2 men argued over something in a duffel bag. Cash, drugs. The one standing over the girl turned, and that's when Noah moved. "Policia!" he barked, stepping into the doorway. The surprise worked. The man holding the girl jumped back, hand reaching under his shirt, too slow. Noah closed the gap in 3 steps and brought the butt of his pistol crashing into the man's face. Cartilage snapped. He crumpled with a wet grunt. One of the others reached for a gun, but Noah fired a warning shot into the ceiling. Drywall rained down. Both men dove, cursing, one crashing through a chair. Noah grabbed the girl, yanking the phone cord loose with one hand, dragging her behind him. "Come on," he said. Not loud, not soft. Just enough to let her know it wasn't a question. They bolted. Out the back, through the overgrown yard, through a hole in the fence where coyotes had made a path. Noah didn't stop until they hit the tree line, lungs burning, heart thundering. The girl tripped and fell. He scooped her up, carried her across his shoulder like a fireman's drill. He didn't look back, not until he saw the dirt road ahead. His truck parked a quarter-mile down, just out of view. Then he heard the gunshot, crack, muffled but close. Then another. He didn't stop moving. Back at the truck, he got the girl into the passenger seat. She was shaking, mute. He handed her a bottle of water, which she gripped like a lifeline but didn't drink. Noah jumped in, peeled out, gravel spitting from the tires. He didn't hit the highway. He took the back road through old ranch land, where there were no patrols, no eyes. They drove for 10 minutes before either of them spoke. The girl's voice came out like sandpaper. "Luz." Noah glanced over. "That your name?" She nodded. Just once. Stared straight ahead. He drove a little farther, then turned off onto a cattle trail, parking behind a stack of abandoned irrigation pipes. He dialed Border Patrol dispatch on the burner phone he kept in the glove box. It rang 4 times. "Dispatch," a tired voice answered. "I've got a girl," Noah said. "Young, hurt, possibly trafficked. Found her near mile marker 63 off the Lechuza Ranch Trail." A pause. "Is she alone?" "There were others," Noah said. "But I only got her out." Another pause. Longer this time. "Okay, stay put. We're sending someone." Noah hung up. Looked over at Luz. She hadn't moved. Still staring out the window. "You hungry?" he asked. She didn't respond. But he reached into the back seat and pulled out a pack of jerky anyway. Set it between them. She took a piece slowly, like she wasn't sure she was allowed. 20 minutes later, a single white Border Patrol truck pulled up the trail. Noah stepped out slowly, hands away from his waist. The agent who got out was young, mid-20s, clean-cut, nervous eyes. "You called it in?" Noah nodded. "She needs medical and a translator." The agent crouched next to the passenger door, spoke to Luz in Spanish. She didn't answer, just nodded when he asked if she was hurt. "We'll get her to the center," he said to Noah. "Can I get your name?" Noah hesitated. "Does it matter?" The agent sighed. "Not officially." "Noah Beckett." The agent jotted it down. "We appreciate it, but you should be careful out here. People who help get noticed." "I know." The agent gently helped Luz into the government truck. She didn't look back. Noah drove home in silence. The garage was dark when he pulled in. Eddie was gone. The radio was off. He sat in the office for a long time, staring at the wall. He'd seen something he wasn't supposed to, and someone was going to notice. The Val Verde County Sheriff's Office looked like it hadn't been updated since the Reagan administration. Cracked tile floors, a vending machine with only 2 working lights. A woman behind the glass partition scrolling her phone and pretending not to see Noah standing there. He pressed the call button. Waited. Finally, she looked up. "Can I help you?" "I need to speak with the sheriff," Noah said. "It's about a stash house. I found a girl being trafficked." She blinked slowly. "Did you already call Border Patrol?" "I did," he said. "They picked up the girl, but I saw where she was being held. There were others." She glanced at a computer screen, sighed, and picked up a phone. "Name?" "Noah Beckett." A pause. Then she waved him toward a row of faded plastic chairs. "Have a seat. He'll be with you when he can." 35 minutes later, Sheriff Clay Harwell shuffled in wearing pressed khakis, mirrored sunglasses, and the same smug face he wore in his campaign photos around town. He looked like a man who'd never once drawn his service weapon. "You're the vet, right?" Harwell asked, not sitting. Noah stood. "Yes, sir." I found a girl out past Lechusa Ranch, young, tied up. There were others. I got her out, but the stash house is still active." Harwell scratched at his temple. "And you called Border Patrol?" "Yeah, but this house, it's stateside, inside our jurisdiction." "Okay." Harwell exhaled through his nose. "We'll pass it up the chain." "I don't think you understand," Noah said, stepping slightly closer. "I heard screams. I saw kids. This wasn't some rundown shack with a few border crossers. This is cartel-owned, organized." Harwell's jaw tightened slightly. Just a flicker. Then the mask slid back on. "Appreciate your concern, Mr. Beckett. But these situations are complex. Can't go kicking in doors on private property because a good Samaritan says something looked wrong." "I'm not some good Samaritan," Noah snapped. "I was a Marine Scout sniper. I know when something's wrong." Harwell put a hand on his belt, resting near his badge. Not near his gun, but the gesture was deliberate. "Not saying you're lying," he said slowly. "Just saying there's process. Now, if that's all." Noah stared at him for a long beat, then nodded. "That's all." Back at the garage, Eddie was waiting. He leaned against a Civic with a dented hood, sipping from a big gulp and watching the road. "You okay, boss?" he asked. "You look like someone chewed you out." Noah tossed his keys onto the desk inside. "Sheriff doesn't care." Eddie raised an eyebrow. "About the kid?" "About any of it." He didn't say more. Didn't say that the sheriff had known his name before he gave it, or that he hadn't taken down any notes, or that he'd kept his mirrored glasses on the entire time. It wasn't until the next morning that Noah saw it. The garage's side wall had been tagged, spray-painted in red, a crude symbol, a skull with a knife through it. Los Navajas, one of the cartels operating along the border, small but brutal, known for killing first and asking never. Noah stared at it for a long time. Eddie pulled up beside him in his beat-up truck, coffee in hand. "You see it?" "I see it." "You want to call someone?" Noah shook his head. "Paint it over." The rest of the day passed in silence. Noah worked on a transmission rebuild while Eddie handled tire rotations. No one talked about the paint. No one mentioned the truck that parked across the street for 20 minutes with 2 men inside. No one said anything when Eddie noticed the security camera cable had been cut clean. It was like the town had blinked and missed it all on purpose. That night, Noah sat on the edge of his bed in the little house behind the garage. He stared at his gun on the nightstand. He hadn't fired a round at another human being in a long time, not since Afghanistan, when everything went sideways during that op outside Sangin, the one they were told never to talk about. But this was different. This was home. He didn't want a war. He wanted the sheriff to do his damn job. He wanted the girl, Luce, to be safe. He wanted the other kids pulled from that house before it was too late. But nobody was coming. No one answered. So maybe the answer had to be him. Noah Beckett had learned something early in Afghanistan. The silence before a firefight was worse than the firefight itself. Because silence could lie. He dreamed of it again that night. The smell of hot brass and sweat. The dry snap of gravel beneath his boots. The comms buzzing with a voice that never stopped shaking. Targets in the compound. Intel confirmed. Move now. They'd moved. 3rd Squad, Lima Company, USMC, pushing into a walled courtyard outside Sangin, under a white sun that bleached color from everything. And inside, not a bomb maker, not insurgents, just a family. 3 kids, a woman clutching a Quran, and a man, maybe 30, holding a broom, not a rifle. Noah had been the first through the door, rifle raised, finger on trigger, and in that half-second, the space between kill or don't, he saw a flicker of something. Not fear, recognition. The man knew this was a mistake, knew the soldiers didn't want to be there, knew he wasn't going to leave alive, but he never moved, never reached, never shouted. The shot came from behind, Someone else's round. The woman screamed, the kids ran, and the report that followed called it a mistaken ID during active combat. No insurgents, no enemy fire, just another burned-out building added to the casualty list. And Noah never forgot the look in that man's eyes. That silence, the kind that kills you later. He woke before dawn, heart pounding. The room was still. He got up, put on coffee, and sat in the kitchen with a pen and a yellow legal pad. Names, locations, patterns, everything he remembered from the ranch house. How many men, what kind of vehicle, what was in the duffel, exits, terrain. He drew a rough map from memory. He didn't even realize his handwriting was shaking until the ink smeared under his palm. He didn't want to do this. He wanted to fix trucks, drink cheap beer, and maybe, just maybe, sleep through the night. But Luce's face wouldn't let him, and neither would the others he hadn't saved. By 9 a.m., he was back in his truck, this time dressed differently. Plain clothes, no logo, no traceable tags, just old desert boots, jeans, and a shirt he didn't care about ruining. He wasn't going to the stash house, not yet. He was going to the feed store. Old man Trevino ran it, retired border patrol, eyes still sharp. Most of the town's cops pretended they didn't know what Trevino used to do. But Noah knew better. He walked in, bought 2 bags of feed he didn't need, and waited until the store emptied. Trevino looked up. "Heard you had visitors at the shop." "Someone tagged the wall." Trevino gave a soft grunt. "Los Navajas don't tag, not unless they want you to know." "I think they already know." Another grunt. "You here for advice?" "Information." Trevino wiped his hands. "What kind?" "Ranch house off Lechuza Trail, white sedan out front, 1 window cracked, probably 3 or 4 holding the property. I saw kids inside." Trevino didn't ask how Noah knew. He just nodded, slowly. "They move them fast," he said. "Usually under 48 hours. Drug load runs take priority. Kids are just cash flow. If you saw one there yesterday, she's already gone." "She's not. I got her out. Luz, 8, maybe 9. Spanish speaking. Border picked her up." That earned a longer stare. "You went in?" "Had to." Trevino whistled through his teeth. "You just stepped into it, son. You got a plan now?" "I'm not looking to play cowboy. I just need to know how they move, who backs them up, where the weak points are." Trevino leaned forward. "You sure you don't want to just repaint your garage and forget this happened?" Noah didn't blink. "I tried that once already." Back at the garage, Eddie was pacing in the shade of the lift. "You see the guy?" "What guy?" "The one who dropped off this envelope." Eddie handed him a plain white envelope, unsealed. Inside, a single bullet, 223, and a message scrawled in red ink on a torn-off fast food bag. "Next one's not a warning. Stay out." Noah folded it in half. Quietly, "What are you going to do?" Eddie asked. Noah walked inside, locked the office door, and pulled the blinds. Then he opened the safe beneath the floorboards. Inside was a case with his old Remington 700, the rifle he hadn't touched in years, custom-built during his 3rd tour. He cleaned it that night, every inch, as if washing away the past. And when he was done, he sat in the dark, the bullet on the table beside him. False trails are meant to fool people. This time, he wasn't following one. He was laying his own. The knock came at 6:11 a.m. Not a pounding, not hesitant, just 3 firm raps on the garage's side door. Noah Beckett was already awake, sitting at the table, cup of black coffee in one hand, the same .223 bullet still lying where he'd left it. He hadn't moved it, hadn't needed to. It was doing its job, reminding him. He stood slowly and opened the door. A teenager stood outside, maybe 15, skinny, worn jeans and a shirt 2 sizes too big. He had a nervous shake to him, like the adrenaline hadn't worn off from whatever got him here. "You Beckett?" he asked. "I am." The boy held out a folded sheet of paper. I was told to bring this to you, said it was important. Who told you? The boy's lips thinned. She didn't give a name. Noah took the paper, unfolded it, scrawled in rough Spanish and translated in smaller print below. You helped one. You didn't help the others. The one with the red ribbon is gone. Unless you come. El Paso Crossing, Blood Mile tonight. The bottom was signed with a symbol Noah recognized immediately, a skull wrapped in barbed wire. Los Navajas. He looked up. How long ago did you get this? Last night. I slept near the train yard. Didn't want to get followed. You hungry? The boy hesitated, then nodded. 30 minutes later, the kid was halfway through a plate of eggs and toast while Noah sat across from him, reading the note again. Do you know who the girl is? Noah asked. The boy looked up. Red ribbon. That's Luz's sister. That stopped Noah cold. Sister? He nodded. There were 3 girls in that house, Luz, her sister, and another kid, maybe 6. The little one was sick. Noah clenched his jaw. You were in there? For a night. Then they moved us. I ran. Got lucky. What's your name? Mateo. Noah nodded. You did good, Mateo. The kid's eyes glistened, a flash of pride under all the fear. The Blood Mile wasn't a nickname Noah had heard in years. It referred to a stretch of abandoned train tracks on the outskirts of El Paso, near a decommissioned checkpoint. A place where coyotes dumped unprofitable cargo. If the crossing got hot or the product was late, the weakest got left behind. Or worse. He had one word for it. Hell. That afternoon, Noah drove 3 hours west in a borrowed pickup, off-grid. No plates. He wore desert canvas, lightweight armor under his jacket, and carried only what he needed. His pistol, a flashlight, his service knife, and a scope in a backpack. He arrived just before sundown and parked in a culvert beneath an overpass. The air was dry, sharp, and smelled faintly of creosote. The Blood Mile looked dead. Weeds overtook the tracks. Crumbling concrete pylons lined one side. An old chain-link fence wrapped in plastic bags flapped in the wind like forgotten ghosts. He moved slowly, sticking to cover. At 400 yards, he spotted the signal. A red ribbon, tied to a broken piece of rebar stuck in the ground beside the track. He moved closer. Then he saw the shoe. Small, canvas, stained with something dark. A child's size. Next to it, a stuffed bear. Its face burned away. No movement, no bodies, but the message was clear. This is where she died. Noah knelt beside the ribbon and picked it up gently. The knot was neat, recent, but the blood on the shoe had dried. He looked around, scanning the area. Then he saw it. A GoPro, half hidden inside a discarded soda can on a concrete block, pointing directly at where he knelt. They'd been watching. He didn't run. He stood up slowly, turned his back to the camera, and walked away. He wasn't going to give them a reaction. Not here. Not on this stretch of dead track. By the time he returned to his truck, the sun had dropped behind the hills. His mind was quiet. That dangerous, purposeful quiet. The same kind he used to slip into when lining up shots from a hillside a mile away. He called no one. Reported nothing. The game had changed. They'd made it personal. And now he wasn't going to wait. That night he returned to the stash house. Armed. Alone. He parked 3 miles out and hiked in under moonlight, rifle strapped to his back, boots soft against packed sand. He expected movement, lights, a vehicle, maybe patrols. Nothing. The house was dark, still, dead. He moved slowly around the perimeter. No voices, no scent of recent fires or smoke, no footprints in the sand. They'd cleared it out, but they'd left something behind. In the back room, the one where Luz had been tied, Noah found a photo on the floor, face down. He picked it up. 3 girls, dusty, frightened, standing side by side in front of a van. One of them held a stuffed bear. Luz, her sister, and the sick girl Mateo had mentioned. On the back, someone had written a date, just 4 days earlier. Noah pocketed the photo. Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw it. A phone, burner style, left face up on the mattress. Screen cracked, battery still in, and taped to the back was another red ribbon. His pulse slowed. They weren't just threatening him. They were inviting him. And the next step, it would cost him everything, or finally give him the shot to do something that mattered. By 9:12 the next morning, the garage was silent. No clanging tools, no country music bleeding from Eddie's speaker, just a hot wind sliding through the open bay and a tension in the air that made Noah's shoulders stay high, like he was still waiting on incoming fire. He had opened the garage, but he hadn't taken any customers. Eddie hadn't shown up. The workbench was too clean, the tools too orderly. Something was coming. He knew it the way you know a dog's about to bite. Not from the growl, but from the silence that comes right before. They arrived at 10:26 a.m., 2 men, no hurry in their walk. One wore jeans, boots, and a long-sleeved Western shirt with mother-of-pearl buttons. His hair was slicked back and wet-looking. He wore mirrored aviators, even in the shade. The other was larger, thicker, bald with a prison tan and forearms like tree trunks. Neck tattoos, white tank top, the kind of man who didn't carry a gun because he didn't need to. They stopped 10 feet from the office door and waited. Noah walked out slowly, wiping his hands with a rag he didn't need. He kept his tone calm, hands empty. "You lost?" The man in the aviators smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Senor Beckett," he said, his accent faint, his English perfect. "We're not lost. We're just here to deliver a message." "I don't take messages." "Everyone takes messages, even the dead." He smiled again, softer this time. "You made some noise in El Paso. People noticed." "Good." The bald man chuckled low in his throat, like a pit bull rumbling before it jumps. Aviators nodded toward the office door. "Mind if we talk inside?" "I do." The man's smile didn't fade, but something in his face stiffened, like a thread pulled too tight. "Then I'll be quick. You went into a house that wasn't yours. You took something that wasn't yours. Now you're carrying a weight that doesn't belong to you." "Funny," Noah said. She didn't look like a possession. Aviators laughed. "Big words. You were military, yes? Marine?" "Still am." "No," the bald one said, stepping closer. "You're not. Marines die for each other. You just die alone." Noah didn't move, didn't flinch. His hands were still at his sides, relaxed, but his gaze never dropped. "I'll pass along a message of my own," Noah said quietly. "The next man who threatens me in front of my own shop won't walk away." The smile vanished. There it was, the pause, the drop in temperature that always came before a fight, or a bullet. The bald man started to take another step forward, but aviators raised a hand, halting him. He studied Noah, measured him like a butcher studies a cut of meat, then nodded, slow and respectful. "Bravery," he said, "or something that smells like it. I respect that. But you should understand something, Mr. Beckett." He stepped in, just enough to make his cologne and his arrogance carry across the air between them. "We don't need to shoot you. We don't need to break your hands. All we need is for you to sleep, and we'll come while you do. Take your tongue, take your spine, leave your eyes." A long beat. Then he stepped back, smoothed his shirt, and turned toward the street. "Have a blessed day." They walked away, calm, smiling, predators who weren't afraid to be seen. As soon as they were out of sight, Noah locked the shop, pulled the security footage off the cloud server, and backed it up to 2 thumb drives. One went into a manila envelope labeled "To Marshall, open if dead." He didn't even remember where he'd learned the detective's name. Maybe Trevino, maybe the local paper. But he'd been keeping a list. The other went into a drawer under the floorboards beside his rifle. Not because he planned to hide, but because the game had changed, and he was done playing defense. That afternoon, He sat on the floor of his small kitchen and unfolded the map again. Every piece of information he had. Every route, every vehicle, every house, every face. The web was starting to show. And at the center of it was Victor Salazar, a name he hadn't said aloud yet, but knew all the same. The man in the aviators, second in command of Los Navajas, former enforcer, now lieutenant, known for burning men alive in oil drums, known for never getting his hands dirty but making sure someone else's were. Salazar didn't pay visits, didn't issue warnings, unless he wanted you to know you were still alive only because he said so. That meant something. They weren't trying to kill Noah. Not yet. They were trying to break him. Noah stood up, stretched, and stared out the window toward the west. There was still a house, still kids, still another van headed somewhere full of blood and silence. But there was also something else now. Fear. Not his. Theirs. They wouldn't have shown up unless they knew he was capable of damage. And maybe, just maybe, they were right. The Rio Grande shimmered under the afternoon sun, a snake of silver winding through cracked earth and brittle brush. On maps, it was a border, a line, a fence drawn by law. But to the people who crossed it, and the ones who hunted them, it was just a threshold, between silence and screaming, hope and hunger, life and the thing that came after. Noah Beckett stood at the edge of a dry embankment, staring down at the water below. The smell of silt and sweat hung thick in the air. His boots crunched in the gravel. He hadn't planned to be here again. Not this soon. But the call had come just after sunrise. Trevino. Short, tight voice. No preamble. There's a kid. Half dead. Found near the old flood bridge. Doesn't speak. Got something you're gonna want to see. The boy couldn't have been more than 10. He lay wrapped in a dirty emergency blanket in the back of Trevino's old patrol van, eyes fluttering open and shut. Sunburn blistered his cheeks. His lips were cracked. Dried blood at the nose. "Name's Thomas," Trevino said, nodding toward the child. "Some coyote dumped him in the scrub. Border Patrol found him half-conscious, carrying this." He handed Noah a torn envelope, worn soft by sweat and rain. Inside was a child's drawing, done in blue pen on ruled notebook paper. It showed a rectangle, a house, with 3 stick figures standing behind bars. One was smaller than the others. Next to the house was a truck. A skull was drawn on its side. A red X over one of the children. At the bottom, Ayuda, Hermana, La Casa del Agua, help, sister, the House of Water. Noah's stomach turned. "The House of Water?" he asked aloud. Trevino nodded. "Local nickname. Used to be a water bottling plant. Abandoned, about 10 miles east of here. Been tagged by Los Navajas before. Could be a stash spot. Could be where they moved the others." Trevino didn't answer, didn't need to. They drove out together, Trevino behind the wheel, Noah riding shotgun. Neither spoke for a long time. The tires hummed over washboard dirt roads. Vultures circled in lazy spirals above the horizon. The bottling plant came into view like a ghost ship beached in the scrubland. 2 stories of sun-bleached concrete, broken windows, and graffiti-tagged walls. A rusted delivery truck sat on flat tires near the side entrance. Noah scanned the perimeter through his binoculars. No movement, but that doesn't mean it's empty. "I can radio it in," Trevino said, though his voice made clear how little he trusted the result. "Sheriff will ignore it. Maybe tip someone off." "We go in quiet," Noah said. Trevino raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" "I've got eyes, you've got backup. That's all we need." Inside, it was worse than the house. No furniture, no mattresses, just blankets and cages. Dog cages. Some still had toys inside. One had a Hello Kitty backpack hanging on the bars. Noah moved through the rooms like a shadow, rifle slung across his chest. No voices, no doors slamming. The place had been cleared. But there were signs of speed. Food left out. A half-full canteen. a broken sandal on the floor, and in the far corner, carved into the wall with what looked like a nail, LG. Noah's breath hitched. Loose. She was here, he whispered. Trevino stood near the doorway, scanning the perimeter through the cracked windows. They're running scared. You got under their skin. Noah didn't answer. He crouched, picked up the sandal. The heel had a chunk missing, just like the one from the first stash house. A set, and next to it, almost missed in the dust, a bottle cap with a folded piece of paper jammed inside. He opened it. Another child's drawing. This time it showed a farmhouse. Barbed wire, a tall figure in a cowboy hat, a little girl in the window. In the corner, 3 letters, VMR. Noah stared at it. Victor M. Ranch. He looked at Trevino. That name mean anything? Trevino's eyes narrowed. Yeah, property out near Devil's Hollow. About 25 miles east. Used to belong to a cattle syndicate. Sold off in parts. Nobody goes near it now. Why not? Because bad things happen there. Noah sat outside the plant long after Trevino drove off, staring down at the drawing in his hands. The sun had dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the cracked pavement. A hawk screamed somewhere in the hills. He could walk away. Right now. Get in the truck. Head north. Disappear. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw Luce. And now, Thomas, half dead, dumped like trash, clutching a drawing of his sister locked in a concrete cage. Noah had seen that look before, in Afghanistan, on the faces of boys after the blast, after the convoy never came. He remembered telling them, help is coming, and sometimes it didn't. Sometimes he didn't. But this time, help was coming. This time, it was him. The wind picked up as Noah pulled into the gravel drive behind his shop. Dust curled up in spirals behind his truck, catching in the orange glow of the late sun. He didn't go inside. He sat in the cab, engine off, door open. The drawing of the Victor M. Ranch farmhouse laid across his lap like a map he didn't want to follow. He stared at it. The little girl in the window, the stick man in the cowboy hat, and tried to imagine what she felt when she drew it. Alone. Trapped. Watching. Waiting. Noah knew that feeling. Not just from combat, from home. Inside the shop, everything was still. The tick of the wall clock, the faint hum of the beer fridge, the kind of silence that had weight. He walked through the office and into the house out back. 2 rooms, sparse, functional. It still smelled like motor oil and cedar, like the night he'd carried her inside for the last time. Rachel. It had been 7 years, 3 since she'd died. But in the corners of the house, she lingered. In the chipped blue ceramic mug she always used, in the cracked tile she tripped on, in the photograph near the bookshelf. Their wedding photo. Simple. Barefoot on the riverbank. Laughing. Her eyes half closed, his hand on her hip. Back then he still believed in normal. Believed he could put the war in a box, shove it under the bed, and build a life with this woman who looked at him like he was something more than a broken soldier. They tried. For years. Until the silence got louder. Until the pills showed up, hers and his. Painkillers at first, prescriptions. Then harder stuff when she couldn't sleep. And when he couldn't speak. He remembered the night she died, more clearly than he wished. The couch, her still body, the open bottle, and the look in her eyes that he hadn't seen in years. Not fear, not pain. Relief, like letting go had finally made the noise stop. Noah dropped into the old armchair, the drawing still clutched in one hand. He stared at the photo on the mantel. I told you I was done, he said, voice hoarse. He didn't mean with her. He meant with this. Fighting, guns, blood, being the hammer someone else always swung. After Rachel died, he made a promise to himself, and to what was left of her. No more violence, no more ghosts. No more pretending that one more mission would fix anything. But now there were children in cages, cartels making trophies out of silence, and no one, not one goddamn soul, was going after them. He stood and pulled the rifle case from beneath the floorboards. He cleaned it again, not out of ritual, out of clarity. He wasn't chasing vengeance. He was cutting a rod out of his land. By midnight, the truck was loaded. Water, tools, medical kit, flashlights, his sidearm. And the Remington 700, checked twice, zeroed at 300 yards. He sat behind the wheel staring at the farmhouse drawing on the seat beside him. Rachel's voice echoed in his mind. Not real, not imagined, just remembered. You can't keep fixing everyone else's pain with your own. He rested a hand on the rifle. No, he whispered, but maybe I can finally put mine to use. The next morning, the desert sky was the color of bleached bone, and the wind carried heat that hadn't earned its place this early in the day. Noah parked behind the state maintenance depot just outside Del Rio. From the road, it looked abandoned. Chain-link fence sagging, trailers half-eaten by rust. But Noah knew better. Matt Calderon worked here. Not officially, not in any real capacity. But that was the point. Calderon had served with Noah in Afghanistan, one of the sharpest spotters in Lima Company, with a mouth that never stopped and a moral compass that spun like a bottle on a bar table. After they got out, he did a few years in private security, then ended up working contract support for Border Patrol intelligence, unofficial, off the books, and often left to his own devices. Noah found him sitting in a folding chair behind the depot, sunglasses on, boots propped up on a crate, eating a microwaved burrito like it owed him money. "You're alive," Calderon said without looking up. "Must be a slow news day." "Still eating that crap?" Noah asked, leaning against a post. "Still pretending you're not a killer?" Calderon shot back. They both smiled, the kind that didn't reach the eyes. Inside the trailer, Calderon poured 2 cups of gas station coffee and sat down across from Noah. "You didn't come all this way for small talk," Calderon said. "So what is it? You need a weapon, a fake ID, or a body buried?" "I need eyes," Noah said. "On a property, out near Devil's Hollow." Calderon raised an eyebrow. "You trying to go ghost?" "I'm trying to find kids. One of them drew a picture of the place. It's being used as a cartel way station." "Los Navajas?" Noah nodded. "Victor Salazar runs it, or protects it, or launders through it." "I don't know. But there's a girl in that house. Her name's Luce. I've pulled her out once. Her sister's still in. Maybe more." Calderon leaned back, coffee forgotten. "Jesus." Noah didn't flinch. "You know what happens if you go in there solo," Calderon said. "You don't make it out, and if you do, nobody hears about it, because those kids will be gone before anyone listens." "I'm not asking for backup," Noah said. "I need a layout, activity, supply drop times, routes, one good window." Calderon looked at him for a long time, then stood and opened a locked file cabinet. He pulled out a tablet, tapped a few icons, and brought up a satellite photo of the ranch. Black and white. High resolution. There were vehicles, tracks, a few heat signatures inside. "This is from yesterday," he said. 1 Suburban, 1 box truck, 8 targets confirmed on thermal, 5 inside, 3 perimeter. Kids. Too small to show up clearly, but we saw a smaller frame on the northwest side yesterday morning. Moved slow, dragged leg. Could be Luz's sister." Calderon sighed and slid the tablet across the table. "You ever get tired of being the only guy who gives a damn?" he asked. "All the time." "Then why keep doing it?" Noah looked him dead in the eye. "Because no one else will." Calderon walked him out to the truck. "One more thing," he said. "That property used to be owned by a DEA asset. Went dark 5 years ago. Off books. Sold to a shell corp tied to cartel laundering." "You sure?" Calderon shrugged. "As sure as I get." "You still have the field radio?" Calderon reached into the back of his Jeep and handed Noah a battered shortwave radio and a spare earpiece. "Channel 4. I'll monitor. If it goes sideways, I'll at least know where to collect your bones. Appreciated." They stood there a moment, neither saying what they both knew. Then Calderon said, "Hey, Noah?" "Yeah? If you get the girl out, you better get out too." Noah didn't answer. He just climbed into the truck and drove. By sunset, he had parked 3 miles from the ranch, half buried the truck under a camo tarp, and moved on foot toward Victor M. Ranch, rifle slung low across his back, earpiece in, breath even. He had a plan now. Not a perfect one, but enough. Calderon's last words buzzed in his ear. "You better get out too." But Noah already knew the truth. He wasn't going in for survival. He was going in for something that mattered, even if it killed him. Noah reached the ridge above Victor M. Ranch just before 2 a.m. The wind was low, the stars clear. The only sound was the crunch of red dirt beneath his boots and the breath in his lungs. He lay prone beneath a cover of brush, unfolding a tripod bipod, and resting the Remington 700 against his shoulder like an old habit. He scanned the land through his scope, slow, deliberate sweeps. From here, he could see it all. The main house, squat, concrete, weather-worn. No porch lights. Just 2 exterior lamps mounted high, casting long shadows across the dirt yard. A Suburban was parked nose in. A box truck sat farther back, idling with a quiet rumble, its cargo door sealed tight. He counted 6 men on rotation. 3 armed sentries patrolling the perimeter, 1 at the truck, 2 near the house entrance. All carried AR variants, tactical vests, walkie-talkies. Not street thugs, trained, disciplined. They moved with formation, with purpose. Cartel soldiers, not just runners. Through the scope, Noah could see one of the guards step away from the house and smoke a cigarette, backlit by the faint interior light. Another man appeared briefly at the door, nodded, and handed him something. A clipboard. Inventory. They were moving product tonight. Noah's pulse slowed. His brain clicked into that cold, detached space he hadn't visited since Afghanistan. Observation, terrain, timing, pattern. He noted every movement. Truck doors opened at 2:13 a.m., 2 crates loaded, sealed. One woman, small frame, wearing a jacket 2 sizes too big, escorted from the house, blindfolded, hands zip-tied, loaded into the back of the Suburban. Noah's jaw clenched. Not just drugs, not just weapons, they were moving people. He swept his scope across the house again. Then he saw it. A second-floor window, covered by a plastic sheet flapping in the wind. And behind it, a flash of movement. A small hand, pressed to the pane, then gone. Noah's stomach turned. He had maybe 12 hours before they moved again, maybe less. He didn't move for another hour, just watched, logged every step, every shift change, every radio signal. He didn't fire, didn't break cover, didn't breathe harder than he had to. By 4 a.m., the truck had pulled out. By 4:22, the Suburban followed, carrying whoever that girl was, or whoever they thought could be sold next. The ranch went quiet again. 2 guards remained. 1 at the entrance. 1 smoking beneath the generator housing. The rest would be sleeping or planning the next run. Now he had a window, a narrow one, and it would have to be surgical. Back at his truck, Noah unfolded a topographical map and marked the positions he'd seen, entry paths, guard rotations, the blind spots in the lighting grid. He outlined a route that would take him into the northeast service door without triggering the spotlight arc or crossing a patrol line. He'd need less than 5 minutes inside, long enough to find Luz's sister, if she was still there, and get out. But he also knew something else now. This wasn't just a stash house. It was a central node, a distribution hub. It wasn't going to stop. Not after 1 girl, not after 10. Unless someone ended it. He keyed the shortwave mic clipped to his collar. "Calderon, you up?" A pause. Static. Then, "I was having a nightmare about you in your underwear, screaming something about justice. I need a drone. Quiet. High altitude." Real-time feed. Calderon sighed. "You're asking for toys I'm not supposed to have." "I know. What's the mission?" "I go in before sunup. Confirm presence of a child. Extract if possible." "Do you have eyes on the objective?" "I've got more than that." "Then I'm not stopping you." Another pause. "You sure this is worth dying over?" Calderon asked quietly. Noah looked out toward the black ridge behind him. "I'm not dying," he said. "I'm finishing." The garage was quiet when Noah returned at dawn. Too quiet. No Eddie. No half-drunk coffee left on the workbench. No country music humming from the Bluetooth speaker he always pretended he didn't own. Noah parked cautiously around back and approached the shop from the side door. He didn't unlock it right away. He stood for a few long seconds, listening. Something was wrong. He stepped inside, hand on his sidearm. Oil smell, burnt rubber, blood. That hit first, the sharp metallic scent of blood. He found Eddie crumpled behind the tire balancer, a red smear trailing along the concrete where he'd crawled. "Jesus," Noah muttered, dropping to one knee. Eddie's face was a mess. One eye swollen shut, lip split, blood matting his graying hair. His shirt was torn, chest bruised, but he was breathing. Barely. "Hey," Noah said, voice low. "You with me?" Eddie blinked, winced. They asked where you were," he croaked. "Didn't believe me when I said I didn't know." Noah's gut twisted. "How long ago?" Eddie coughed. "An hour, maybe less. One guy had a boot with a snake stitched into the side, left it on my ribs. Think something's cracked." Noah helped him sit up gently and grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge. He handed it to Eddie, who took a shaky sip. "Ambulance?" Eddie shook his head. "No cops. No hospitals. They'll trace it." Noah nodded grimly. "All right, I've got a medic kit in the house." "Did they get your truck?" Noah froze. He sprinted outside. His Chevy was still there, parked under the shade tarp, but the hood was ajar. He popped it, wires cut, battery smashed. A small GPS tracker taped under the fuse box, still blinking. Noah yanked it out, crushed it under his boot. Then he leaned against the truck, breathing hard. They knew. They knew where he'd been, what he was planning, who mattered to him. They weren't just watching anymore. They were hunting. Back inside, Noah cleaned Eddie's wounds, taped his ribs, and helped him onto the couch with an ice pack. "Why are you doing this, man?" Eddie rasped. "They're gonna kill you." Noah didn't answer for a long time. Then he said, "Because someone's gotta bleed for the ones who can't. That doesn't have to be you." Noah looked at him, eyes hollow. "It already is." By afternoon, he'd hot-wired the backup truck, an old Tacoma he kept for parts, and moved his gear into it. The rifle, the radio, the layout sketches, the photos, the drawings. He burned the rest. Every document, every scrap of identifying information, the fake license he used under his mechanic business, the old photos of him and Rachel, the lease, gone. If they came back, there'd be nothing to find, only blood and ash. At sunset, he buried his real dog tags under the pecan tree behind the shop. Not out of ceremony, out of closure. Noah Beckett, Marine, husband, mechanic, would not return from the next mission, but someone else might. A ghost with a scope and a reckoning. Calderon's voice crackled through the shortwave at 6:15 p.m. "Got your drone eyes, low altitude, quiet wings. Window opens at 0100. You'll have 22 minutes before it moves out of satellite sync." "Copy," Noah replied. "How's the ranch?" "2 extra bodies, new vehicle. Window might be closing." "Understood. You good?" Noah stared out at the hills. The wind was rising, a dry, hot breath out of the south. "I will be," he said. "Noah." "Yeah? No one else is going to say it, so I will. You don't have to die to do something good." Noah clicked off the mic. He didn't need a eulogy. He needed a clear shot. The gunmetal of the Remington 700 gleamed under the lantern light, like it had been waiting for this night. Noah sat on a crate in the back of the old Tacoma, meticulously cleaning the bolt assembly. Each pass of the rag was methodical, quiet, reverent. He didn't rush. Didn't think about the time. He already knew the window. 0100 hours. He'd arrive early. He always did. But this wasn't about schedule. It was about reminder. This rifle had saved his life in Afghanistan. It had also ruined it. The first time he fired it in combat, he hadn't even seen the man's face. Just a glint of sunlight off a scope in the hills above Sangin. One squeeze, one echo. One body falling backwards like a rag doll. He remembered his squad cheering. He remembered vomiting behind a wall, hands shaking. It wasn't killing that haunted him. It was how fast it became easy. He reassembled the rifle in silence. Luce's sister was still out there, possibly in the second-floor room. The thermal blip, the small hand on the window. The truck had left, but not with her. Tonight would be the last chance. He checked his watch. 2,245, 2 hours and change to go. He stood, opened a duffel bag, and began final prep. 2 mags of .45 hollow points field radio, spare battery thermal monocular zip ties, bandages, glucose tabs, lockpick set, combat knife, the one from Rachel's drawer. His wedding ring sat next to it. He stared at it for a long moment, then slid it onto a loop of paracord and tucked it into the inner pocket of his vest. He caught his reflection in the side mirror. Same jawline, same gray at the temples. But the man looking back wasn't the Noah who ran a garage. This was the other one. The one Rachel had tried to pull out of the war. The one she loved and feared. The one she said only knew how to save others by breaking himself. He wasn't broken now. He was ready. At 030, he pulled off the county road and killed the lights. He walked the last mile on foot, boots silent in the dust, every sense sharpened by time, memory, and the knowledge that this was it. No more warnings, no more trail following. He was going in, alone. He reached the ridge, checked his radio, whispered into the mic. "Calderon, in position. Copy that. Drone overhead. 2 new vehicles arrived at 2300. Pattern holding. You've got 22 minutes. Make 'em count." "I will." "And Noah." "What?" "If this is the last thing you do, it won't be." The brush crackled beneath his steps as he descended into the low draw north of the ranch. His thermal monocular showed 2 guards near the generator shed. One was half dozing, leaning on a shovel. The other smoked, distracted. Noah moved past them like wind. He reached the northeast door, just like he'd mapped. Picked the lock in 9 seconds, slipped inside. The air was rank with sweat and ammonia. A makeshift hallway stretched before him, dimly lit by a flickering utility bulb. Metal crates stacked to the ceiling. Empty dog cages. Footsteps overhead. Noah moved like a whisper. Through a break in the wall board, he spotted the stairwell. And then he saw her. A little girl, curled on a cot in the corner of the upstairs room, face turned to the wall, wrist zip-tied to a pipe. Luz's sister. He didn't need to see her face. He knew. He exhaled slowly. Everything in him, fear, grief, anger, drained out. And something colder settled in. Something clear. Time to go to work. The inside of the Victor M. Ranch smelled like iron and heat. The kind of place where human sweat soaked into the walls and never left. Noah moved in absolute silence up the stairs. Rifle slung across his back, pistol drawn, knife strapped to his thigh. Every step calculated, every board tested. The second floor was dim, moonlight leaking through a crack in the roof. Shadows everywhere, boxes stacked, a generator's hum in the distance, and then a soft cough, a child's cough. Noah pivoted. Down the hall, third door, no lock. He eased it open. She was curled against the wall, thin arms around her knees, breathing shallow. She wore mismatched clothes, a boy's t-shirt and pajama bottoms 2 sizes too big. A small teddy bear was clutched in her bound hand, worn nearly bald. Her wrist was zip-tied to a heating pipe. Noah crouched beside her. "Luce sent me," he whispered. Her eyes snapped open, green like her sister's, wide with confusion. "You're safe now," he said, pulling out the knife. She didn't speak, just watched, frozen. He cut the tie in one clean motion. She flinched, but didn't run. Instead, she grabbed his sleeve. "Other girl," she whispered. "Still here." Noah blinked. "What girl?" But she shook her head. Different room, other side. Another kid. They had lied. Or not moved, everyone. Noah's gut twisted. He keyed his mic. "Calderon. Go." "There's another, at least one, northwest quadrant." "Confirmed. Drone saw movement in West Annex, thought it was adult." "Negative. Girl. Probably 10. "Clock's ticking, man. 17 minutes to blackout." "I'm not leaving her." "Didn't think you would." Noah helped the first girl to her feet. She was weak, dehydrated, but she could move. He pulled a glucose tab from his pocket and handed it to her. "Chew this, fast." She nodded, barely making a sound. Noah led her to the stairwell. They crept down. He kept her behind cover while he mapped the path to the annex. 3 guards on rotation now, 1 near the east door, 2 in the south corridor. He passed them in shadow. Then a voice cut through the stillness. "I figured it'd be you." Noah froze. Victor Salazar stepped out from the corner, a pistol in one hand, cigarette in the other. Calm, polished, smiling like he was greeting an old friend. "I told them," Salazar said. "Only one man dumb enough to crawl back into hell for a girl with a red ribbon." Noah moved the girl behind him, one hand tightening on his pistol. "Let her go," Salazar said. "She's not the one we want." "What do you want?" Salazar exhaled a cloud of smoke. "Pain, mostly. Noise. People don't respect silence unless it hurts first. I'm not interested in your philosophy." "No, you're not. You're interested in revenge, redemption, closure." He flicked the ash. "You think saving one girl's gonna buy all your ghosts a ticket to heaven?" Noah didn't answer. He just raised the pistol. Salazar grinned. "You won't shoot me. You need time. You need quiet." Then the girl behind Noah whispered, "He's lying. He's the one who took us." That was all Noah needed. One shot. Center mass. Salazar staggered, dropped his gun, fell backward against the wall, blood blooming through his shirt. Noah didn't wait. He scooped the girl up, took the left corridor, and reached the annex. He found the second child, a young girl with a limp, locked in a wire cage. He tore the door open, lifted her without a word, and ran. Footsteps behind him. Yells. Gunfire. He burst through the northwest side, just before the spotlight panned his way. He was in the brush before the first body hit the gravel behind him. Calderon's voice was sharp in his ear. "I've got movement. You're hot. Exfil points compromised. Fall back to the ridge." "Copy." Noah grunted. He didn't stop. Branches ripped at his arms. One of the girls sobbed into his shoulder. He couldn't tell which. His back ached. His knees screamed, but he did not stop. Not until he reached the ridge. A beat-up SUV roared out from behind a scrub mound. Trevino. Door open, headlights off. "Get in," he barked. Noah threw the girls into the back seat and climbed in after them, bleeding from the shoulder. Trevino gunned the engine. Bullets thudded into the dirt behind them. They drove into the dark. The SUV's suspension groaned as Trevino punched it off-road, tearing across scrub and dry creek beds under a starless sky. In the back seat, the girls huddled against each other, silent, wide-eyed, coated in dust. One of them, the younger one, Luz's sister, clutched a bear with half its stuffing falling out. The older girl, barely 10, kept her arm around her protectively. Noah sat in the front, rifle between his knees, bleeding from a graze across his upper arm. He hadn't noticed it until they hit the first ditch and he felt the fire along the muscle. Trevino glanced at him. "How bad?" "I've had worse." "You always say that." "I'm always right." They hit the ridge road and swung east, aiming for a back trail Trevino knew. Old bootlegger territory. No lights, no signals, just dust, ruts, and 30 miles of nothing. "Calderon," Noah said, clicking the mic. "Go." "Salazar's down. 2 girls extracted, heading northeast. Possible pursuit." "I see it," Calderon replied. "You've got heat signatures closing fast. 1 SUV, 1 ATV, 10 minutes out max. ETA to highway. 15 if you push it, but they're faster." Trevino slammed the wheel left. The tires screamed against the gravel. "We'll need to lose them in the ravine," he muttered. "Old spillway just ahead. You still got that claymore in your gear?" Noah nodded. "In the pack." They reached the ravine in just under 3 minutes. Trevino pulled behind a stand of rocks, killed the engine, and started prepping the girls. "Keep 'em down. Keep 'em quiet. I'll be back." Noah was already out the door, sprinting up the ridge with the claymore mine in his pack. He found a choke point in the trail, narrow enough that the pursuing vehicle would be forced into a single lane between boulders. He mounted the mine at shin height and ran the DEET cord back 30 feet, hiding behind a rock shelf. He clicked his mic. "Trap set. Wait for visual." "Copy," Calderon replied. "Hostiles less than 5 minutes out. Confirm 1 heavy SUV, 6 men." Dust rose in the distance like smoke from a fire. The first vehicle appeared, a black Suburban, the same kind Noah had seen outside the ranch. Its front was armored, roof-mounted lights dark. Inside, 6 men, rifles, body armor. Noah waited. Then he saw the ATV appear behind it. Noah whispered into the mic, "Now," and pressed the clacker. The claymore detonated in a thunderclap of light and shrapnel. The lead SUV's front axle vaporized. The entire truck bucked sideways, slamming into the boulders. 2 of the men inside were instantly down. The rest scrambled out, disoriented, coughing. Noah didn't wait. He picked off the man nearest the back with a clean shot to the chest. Another ducked behind the truck, but Trevino, now flanking from the lower trail, opened fire with his shotgun. The fight was over in seconds, but the ATV didn't stop. It zipped around the carnage, taking a wider angle up the ridge. One man, fast, smart. He was coming for the girls. Noah was already running downhill, boots slipping on shale, pain shooting through his arm. The girls were out of the truck now, hiding in the brush. Trevino knelt beside them, rifle ready. The ATV burst into view. Noah lifted his sidearm, but the rider was already jumping off. He came in fast, knife in hand. Noah tackled him just before he reached the girls. The 2 men hit the ground hard. Dust exploded around them. The knife scraped Noah's vest. They rolled, fists flying, dirt in their teeth. The cartel soldier was bigger, younger, strong, but Noah was angry. He slammed his forearm across the man's throat and drove the knife into his thigh. The man screamed. Noah took the opening, ripped the blade free, and finished it. Blood sprayed across the dirt. The body went limp. Noah stood, chest heaving. Blood, some his, some not, ran down his sleeve. The girls were safe. Trevino stared at him for a long second, then nodded. "That's one hell of a send-off." "Not done yet," Noah said. They burned the Suburban, buried the bodies shallow, marked the site. It was crude, but it would buy time. By sunrise, they were back on the highway. Calderon's voice came over the radio. "Everything quiet. You're off the grid. Satellite sweep shows no other movement near Devil's Hollow." "Then we end it," Noah said. Today. You sure? I'm sure. Because someone always runs the dogs, and someone always calls them back. They were 20 miles from the county line when the red and blue lights flashed in the rear-view mirror. Trevino eased the SUV to the shoulder, dust kicking up in clouds. Noah checked his pistol, tucked it under the seat. The girls were asleep in the back, bodies slack, finally free of the tension they'd carried for days, their faces soft in the early morning light. Trevino looked at Noah. Play it straight? Noah nodded. For now. The cruiser rolled to a stop behind them. Out stepped a deputy, mid-40s, squared shoulders, shaved head. His badge glinted as he approached the window. License and registration. Trevino handed them over. Where you boys headed? The deputy asked, casually resting one hand on the holster at his hip. East, Trevino said evenly. Dropping off kids at a safe house near San Marcos. Kids? The deputy leaned forward, glanced into the back, and something shifted in his face. Not surprise, recognition. Noah saw it. The deputy didn't blink, didn't ask questions. He stepped back, then tapped twice on his radio. That wasn't normal. Noah's gut twisted. He reached slowly into the glove box, pretending to search for insurance. Instead, he pulled out a scrap of paper, Calderon's burner number, and began to text under the dashboard. Bad badge. Deputy. Alert Trevino contact. Possible ambush. Help. As he hit send, another vehicle appeared behind the cruiser. Unmarked. Black. A second man stepped out, not in uniform. Vest, tactical pants. No badge. Cartel cleanup team, dressed like deputies. This was a handoff. They weren't arresting Noah. They were delivering him. Sir, the deputy said, voice neutral. I'm going to have to ask you to step out. Trevino stayed still. So did Noah. You mind telling me why? Noah asked calmly. Suspicious activity, the deputy replied. Your vehicle matches a BOLO from a suspected abduction. Noah gave a slow smile. You mean rescue? The deputy's eyes narrowed. Then he drew his weapon. But Noah was faster. He shoved the door open with his shoulder, knocking the deputy off balance. Rolled out, drew his sidearm, and fired once. Center mass. The deputy collapsed backward onto the hood of his cruiser, blood blooming beneath his vest. Trevino was already firing at the second man. Rounds pinged off the SUV. Noah grabbed the girls, pulled them flat across the floorboards. Stay down! Don't move! He rolled out the passenger side and flanked the black truck. The second man ducked, returned fire, missed. Noah didn't. 2 shots. One hit the chest, one hit the head. It was over in 15 seconds. Silence. Smoke. A girl crying softly in the back seat. Trevino slumped behind the wheel, breathing hard, arm grazed. You good? Noah asked. Trevino nodded. I've been worse. Shoulders lit up, though. Noah leaned on the open door, hands trembling slightly. I think we just crossed a line, Trevino said. Noah looked back at the wreckage. The flashing lights, the bodies, the badge soaked in blood. No, he said quietly. They crossed it when they sold their oath. Noah stripped both vehicles of radios and guns, dumped the bodies in the ditch, and lit the black truck on fire. No reports, no questions, only fire. 20 minutes later, Calderon's voice cracked through the radio. Got your message late. Intercepted chatter. They were trying to make it look like you went rogue. Sheriff Harwell signed off on the BOLO. Noah stared out the window. I'm gonna burn this whole thing to the ground. Then let's start with the ranch. By the time Noah reached the outer ridge above Victor M. Ranch, the sun was high and cruel. He crouched in the dry brush, rifle across his knees, watching the place where it all started. Same weather-beaten house, same silence. But today felt different. No movement, no guards, too quiet. Trevino's SUV was parked a mile out, hidden behind an old sheep corral. The girls were already safe. transferred to a trusted non-profit safehouse under Calderon's direction. There were no civilians left in play, no lives to protect, just one to sacrifice, his own, if necessary, to make sure this place never saw another child chained to a pipe again. He moved in fast, not quiet. Let them hear, let them wonder. The wind pushed dust across the front yard as he passed the gate, now broken off its hinges. The bodies he and Trevino had buried were gone, dug up or removed, but something else waited at the door. A photograph, pinned to the wood with a knife. It was a surveillance still of Noah, taken at the market days earlier. Blurry, but clear enough to see his face, and scrawled in black marker, "You're next, soldier boy." Noah pulled it free, dropped it into his bag, then kicked in the door. Inside, the house had changed. Stripped, files burned, furniture gone, cages empty. Signs of fast departure. Water bottles, a half-eaten protein bar, a still-charging radio. They were clearing out. He had hours at most before someone came to wipe the place permanently, or to lay a trap. But he was here first. He unpacked the charges. 4 homemade ANFO packs, military-grade components courtesy of Calderon's gray market contacts, enough to level the house and half the crawl space beneath it. He moved room to room, placing them carefully. One in the back hallway, one beneath the kitchen, one under the generator, and the last near what had been the children's holding room. He worked fast, efficient, like he had in Helmand, when a forward compound needed to vanish before it fell into Taliban hands. The wind picked up outside. A storm front was building. Noah finished setting the final charge and keyed the detonator, synced it to the radio trigger. He stepped outside, and that's when he heard the truck. An armored Land Cruiser barreled up the trail, dust cloud behind it. 3 men inside. One of them was Salazar, alive. His shirt was different, no blood, no limp. But the face was the same. So was the smile. Noah stood in the open. Didn't run. The truck stopped 50 yards away. Salazar stepped out, hands raised, no gun, just calm. "You missed my heart," he said. "Next time I won't." "There won't be a next time," Salazar said. "You made a lot of noise, killed a few of mine, but the line doesn't stop at this house." Noah didn't blink. "I'm not here for the line. I'm here for the engine. You think this place matters?" Salazar laughed. "There are 10 more like it. You haven't changed a thing." Noah took a slow breath. "You're right." Then he pressed the trigger. The explosion rocked the valley. The house lifted. The generator exploded. Flames tore through the foundation like a dragon's breath. The blast knocked Salazar back against the truck. His men dove. One screamed, injured by shrapnel or fire. Noah moved through the smoke like a ghost, silent, focused. He raised the Remington and took down the first guard with a clean shot. The second returned fire. Noah dropped behind the wrecked porch, circled left, flanked. 2 more rounds, 1 more body. Only Salazar was left, bleeding, coughing, crawling across the dirt with a pistol in hand. He turned, aimed. Noah shot him through the leg. Salazar collapsed. Noah approached, gun still trained. "You think this changes anything?" Salazar hissed. Noah didn't speak, just knelt, searched his coat, and pulled out a phone. Encrypted, military grade. He tossed it into the fire. Salazar snarled, "There'll be others. Men like me, more than you can count." Noah holstered the pistol, then said, "Maybe, but they'll never forget what happened here," and walked away. Behind him, the ranch burned. The cages, the beds, the silence, all of it reduced to ash. 2 days later, Noah stood at the Rio Grande, boots in the mud, staring across the water into Mexico. It looked quiet. Flat land, sparse trees, a cracked dirt road vanishing into scrub. But he knew better. Somewhere past that horizon sat the last piece of the puzzle. The man Salazar answered to. the source of the trafficking routes. The one who owned the fake orphanage Luz and her sister came through. The man whose name whispered through cartel ranks like a curse. Esteban Morales. He wasn't a killer. He was a broker of children, weapons, organs, identities. Rich, quiet, well-insulated, and reportedly operating out of a private compound just west of Piedras Negras. Calderon had confirmed the coordinates, and Trevino had made it clear. You step across that river, you're on your own. No jurisdiction, no cavalry, no backup. Noah nodded. I was always on my own. He crossed at dawn. No fanfare, no dramatic send-off, just a dry bag, his rifle, sidearm, and enough cash to bribe 3 checkpoints and a farmer. He left the American side behind like he'd left everything else. Quietly. A soldier without a flag. The Morales compound sat behind a white stucco wall, 3 miles outside the city. No guards at the front, too obvious, but motion sensors, drones, private security in civilian clothes with mirrored sunglasses and itchy trigger fingers. Calderon had fed him blueprints, partial but enough to work with. The compound had a basement-level holding area, a main house with an office and guest quarters, a detached structure rumored to hold Morales' inventory, the trafficked children and women awaiting sale or movement. If Morales was here, it would be now. The network was collapsing. Salazar's fall had shaken them. They would either flee or fortify. Noah was betting on the latter. That night, he struck. He slipped through the rear irrigation canal, scaled the outer wall using a grappling hook fashioned from rebar and paracord, and neutralized a rooftop guard with a chokehold and zip tie. From the roof, he had line of sight into the main house's upper floor. And there, lit by a lamp, pacing in a robe and slippers, was Morales, short, balding, soft hands, the kind of man who never held a weapon, only ordered others to use them. Noah watched him for a full hour, then descended. He bypassed 3 sensors using infrared spray and wire disruptors, avoided 2 patrols by tucking between the irrigation tanks, reached the holding structure at 2:34 a.m. Inside were 5 children, 4 boys, 1 girl, none older than 12, all asleep on mats. A woman in a nurse's uniform sat on a stool outside the door, not armed, but worn out. When she saw Noah, her eyes widened, not in fear, in relief. She raised her hands, shook her head. "Please, I help them," she whispered. "I don't hurt them. I hide their names. I give them food when the others don't look." Noah stared at her, then nodded. "Take them," he said. "To the canal. South Gate. Don't stop. There's a boat waiting." She hesitated, then moved fast, waking the children. Noah didn't stay to help. He moved toward the main house, toward Morales. He entered through the kitchen, made no sound. Room to room, silent, like death in boots. He found Morales in the office, typing furiously at a laptop. He didn't look up until Noah pressed the pistol against his temple. He froze. "Who? You know." Morales swallowed hard. "Whatever you want. Money, passports. I want you to stop breathing. You don't want to do this." Noah stared at him, then leaned in. "I didn't want any of this, and I did it anyway." Morales reached slowly toward a panic button beneath the desk. Noah shot him through the hand, then the thigh, then stepped around and looked him in the eye. "These kids, the ones you forgot to kill, they're going home, and you're going to disappear." Morales tried to speak, lips trembling. Noah silenced him with the barrel pressed between his eyes, then pulled the trigger. He walked out the front door before the guards even knew what had happened. By the time they found Morales' body, the compound was already on fire. By the time the Morales compound burned to its foundation, Noah Beckett was already gone. No gunfights, no glory. Just smoke, scorched earth, and the cold certainty that the man who'd brokered lives like cattle would never speak again. Reports trickled across the border before sunrise. Private estate destroyed. Unconfirmed deaths. Children found wandering, escorted to safety by a woman in a nurse's uniform. No names, no claims. Just rumor. A ghost. In San Marcos, at a secure medical center run by a trauma recovery nonprofit, the two girls Noah had rescued, Luz's sister and the second girl, sat with a bilingual caseworker. The younger one, once too afraid to speak, now clutched a sketch pad and crayons. She drew a figure in green, tall, with square shoulders and kind eyes. "What's his name?" the worker asked softly. She didn't speak. She just turned the page. 3 letters were written at the top. N-O-A. At the same time, Calderon sat across from Trevino in the back of a closed Border Patrol substation. Paperwork surrounded them, none of it official, most of it dangerous. "Intel out of Coahuila confirms Morales is dead," Calderon said, handing over a folder. "But we can't link it to anyone. House was torched, cameras fried, no witnesses." Trevino stared at the folder, jaw tight. "You believe he made it out?" Calderon hesitated, then nodded. "There was a set of boot prints, size 12, leading to the irrigation canal. Same treads as Beckett's old service boots. He knew what he was doing. And he walked away. Or crawled," Calderon said quietly. "But yeah, he's gone. Back in Illinois, in a modest courtroom lit by late autumn sun, a federal task force officer presented evidence collected from the Victor M. Ranch and the Morales compound. Satellite images, audio intercepts, personal effects. "None of this," the officer said, "came from our systems. It was provided anonymously. Credibility, impeccable. Chain of custody, non-existent." "And your conclusion?" the judge asked. The officer looked down at a folder labeled Whitmore, the alias Noah had once used when signing off a shipment of medical supplies to the girls' shelter. "My conclusion," the agent said. "Somebody did our job better than we did." The nonprofit where the girls were recovering received an envelope in the mail 2 weeks later. No return address. Inside was a cashier's check for $250,000, a handwritten note that read, "This is what she would have wanted. Use it well." N. The executive director cried when she read it, not because of the money, because she recognized the handwriting from a prior letter, one signed 3 years earlier to a Gold Star wife in Rockford, Illinois. In Fern Creek, the site of the garage was empty, just concrete and broken brick. Locals said the man who ran it vanished overnight. No funeral, no goodbye. Only one thing was left behind, buried under the pecan tree. A rusted ammo box. Inside, a folded flag, a photo of a smiling 12-year-old girl in rollerblades, a copy of the Marine Corps Rifleman's Creed, a bullet with a name carved into it. Salazar Noah Beckett was declared missing, presumed dead, but not by everyone. Luz's sister grew stronger. She spoke more. At night, when the other children cried, she would sit with them, hands wrapped around her tattered teddy bear, and whisper, "He came back for me. He didn't forget. He was real." She would pause, smile faintly. "He said I'd be safe now. And I am." The legend grew. A soldier who crossed the river not to fight a war, but to end one. One man, one rifle, one line he refused to let evil cross. 6 weeks after the Victor M. Ranch went up in flames, 3 federal indictments dropped in El Paso, San Antonio, and McAllen. Not against cartel members, against elected officials, a sheriff, a border judge, a customs liaison. They were the ones who'd signed off on safe routes, protected stash houses, lost files on missing migrant kids. Their hands weren't bloody. Not directly, but their fingerprints were everywhere. Trevino sat in the back of the federal court, out of uniform, watching as the names were read aloud. The courtroom didn't erupt. There were no reporters, no live feed, just silence. Real justice doesn't need an audience. Calderon stayed out of sight, but his work didn't. The data Noah had passed him, files recovered from the Morales compound, USB drives loaded with logistics, trafficking manifests, payoff schedules, became the foundation for 2 international task forces. Interpol picked up the signal. So did Mexican federal police. No one could trace the source, but they all knew the name scrawled on the label of the main drive. Borderline Honor. The safehouse that took in Luz's sister expanded. With the anonymous donation and a flood of new funding, it now had beds for 20, an on-site trauma counselor, and a rotating team of former federal agents providing security. They named the new wing after someone they never officially met. The Beckett Wing. In a Washington back room, a U.S. senator stared at a folder stamped "Eyes Only." Inside were images from a drone feed, grainy, infrared, taken above the Morales compound moments before the fire. One figure, one rifle, one war fought alone. "I want to find him," the senator said. A staffer across the table shook his head. "Ma'am, he doesn't want to be found." In Rockford, Illinois, a woman placed fresh lilies at a grave that bore her husband's name and her daughter's. But the soil wasn't disturbed, because no body was ever recovered. She didn't cry this time. She just whispered, "I forgive you," and tucked a folded newspaper clipping beneath the flowers. The headline read, "Human Trafficking Network Crushed, Children Freed, No Arrests Made, Only Ashes Left Behind." Trevino sat on the porch of his father's old ranch, a cold beer in one hand and a field radio in the other. He clicked it on every now and then. Same channel, same static. No response. Until one night, as the stars lit up the Texas sky and the coyotes cried from the hills, he heard it. "Clear on the line. Still walking, still watching." Trevino smiled, then leaned back in his chair. No one would ever pin it down. Not in court, not in headlines, not in history books. But the traffickers were running scared. The officials were facing judgment, and the kids. They were finally sleeping through the night, because one man refused to let the line stay crossed. The spring air carried the scent of blooming sagebrush and warm concrete as the school doors opened and a wave of children flooded into the courtyard. Some laughed. Some clutched coloring books, some flinched at loud noises, but most were healing. This wasn't an ordinary school. It was a private recovery academy built for survivors of trafficking, border trauma, and undocumented displacement. Run by a coalition of nonprofits, watched over by counselors and plainclothes federal agents who didn't wear earpieces or carry visible guns. They knew better than to scare the children now. They were there to protect, not to patrol. Near the back of the yard, beneath a tree beginning to bloom pale pink, sat a girl. Luz's sister. She was older now, not in years, but in her posture. Stronger. Her hair was brushed neatly, a red ribbon tied near her shoulder. She was reading to a smaller girl, pointing at words in Spanish and English. Her voice was low but steady. Her eyes, once dark with fear, now held something gentler, not quite joy, but peace. From across the street, behind the shade of a low-hanging tree, a man watched, baseball cap, hoodie, gray at the temples, one arm tucked close to his ribs like an old wound still ached when it rained. He didn't speak, didn't move closer, just watched and smiled. Inside the school office, a counselor updated a file. She paused at the section that still read, "Name Unknown." She stood, walked out to the yard, and crouched beside the girl with the red ribbon. "Honey," she asked softly, "have you decided yet?" "About your name." The girl looked up, blinked, then nodded. The counselor smiled. "Would you like to tell me?" The girl thought for a moment. Then she said it. "Emily." Across the street, the man heard it. He closed his eyes. A memory surfaced. His daughter's voice, small and full of light, shouting across the yard as she raced on her rollerblades. "Dad, watch me!" A car pulled up behind him. Calderon stepped out, sunglasses perched on his forehead. "You sure you're ready?" he asked. The man didn't look away from the girl. "Not yet. You could talk to her. To them." The man shook his head. "She doesn't need me to stay broken." Calderon leaned against the tree. "So what now? You keep walking, keep saving strangers from the shadows?" The man thought for a long time. Then, "No. I find a place where I can just exist, not fight, not run." Calderon nodded. "Keep the channel open," he said. The man finally turned to him. "I always do." Back under the tree, the girl who now called herself Emily closed her book and smiled at the little girl beside her. Then she looked up, as if sensing something or someone. She scanned the trees across the street, but there was no one there, just wind and sunlight, and the sound of birds returning to the branches after a long, quiet winter.